Sometimes dialing in guitar tones can take a really long time. It's because guitar amp simulators tend to have so many options that we could sit there and tweak every little detail forever and never really make any progress. Especially if you tend to use an amp sim because they have so many different options to choose from. Let's take IK Multimedia's Amplitube, for example. We have to choose an amp. We have to choose a guitar cabinet. We have to choose a guitar cabinet speaker. We have to choose a microphone. We have to choose the location of where we want to put the microphone on the virtual cabinet. We have to choose a room. We have to choose an ambience level of the room. We have to choose guitar pedals. We have to choose the amp model. And then if we want, we can add another guitar amp with all those same things, and we can add another microphone on a cabinet. And this kind of workflow, even though it's really, really flexible, is kind of exhausting when you just want to go and dial in a good amp tone. And honestly, this workflow is the same for most amp sims. Neural DSP and STL also offer so many options like this. But here comes good old Bogren Digital with their first plugin, which I hope is going to push the industry in a totally new direction. This plugin is called AmpKnob because that's what it is. It's literally a knob on an amp. And that amp happens to be a really awesome sounding Mesa Boogie revC. In this video, I'm going to show you all the features of this new plugin, which is basically just one feature since it's just a frickin' knob. And I'll show you what these amp tones sound like in context with a really dense mix. Hey, thank you so much for being here. My name is Bobby Balo. I'm the mixing and mastering engineer at Raytown Productions, and this channel is dedicated to helping you make better sounding music without needing to spend money on expensive gear or unnecessary plugins. If you're new here, thank you so much for spending your time with me today. Be sure to hit that subscribe button because I drop new videos every single week. It's going to help you level up the quality of your music. And as always, I want to thank you for your time today. So I have a special gift for you. In the description, I have a link to a free guitar cabinet impulse pack that I'm giving away just for you being here, spending your time with me, and learning about Bogren Digital's new amp sim. The impulse response is of my orange 212 cabinet I have right here in my studio. So if that sounds interesting to you and you want to check that out, there's a link to that free download in the description. It's got a really cool mid-forward character to it. Sounds awesome on a JCM 800 or a Marshall guitar amp sim. This track that I'm using today is called Reawaken, and it's by Every Hour Kills. You can actually buy all these multi-tracks online. I just have the stems in the session, but you can get every single thing you see here tracked out, so you can check it out and play with it if you want. So if you like what you hear and you want to play with this song as well, by all means, go check that out. Support the band. Big shout out to my buddy Alan Laskow, who is the producer on this track, for letting me use this in this video. The guitars in this track are all DI. Let me just play them for you. And let me just play all the other tracks so you can get a little bit of context. Yeah, this song is epic. I hate myself. Now, if only we had a brutal crushing guitar tone, right? Well, thank you, Jens, for this AmpKnob plugin, because here it is. This is it. You have the knob, and it goes from this to this. There's no numbers. There's nothing on it. And turns out this little scratch mark is where it sounds pretty amazing. Let's talk about the interface. You have bypass and you have the knob. That's it. Well, not necessarily. If we go a little bit deeper down here, we actually have an in and an out gain. So you can adjust the level of your signal going in or out. So if your DIs are super hot, maybe you want to pull these back a little bit. But honestly, this thing sounds pretty awesome regardless of what that level is coming in. Now, there are actually some settings, okay? So if you click this little gear icon, you can come to Gate in Settings, and this is a little bit important, so it's worth noting. If you have a stereo guitar track, which we actually do in this song, so we have these stereo guitars, and it's on a single track, you want to make absolutely sure that stereo is selected so that both channels are being processed independently. Okay, and there's also a gate, which is nice. That way it'll clean up any of the really quiet hum or buzz that you might have on your DI track. Okay, and it's on by default, it's set to -60. I find that that level is perfect. Now let me show you how fast it is to dial in a guitar tone, because this is so stupid. It's stupid, right? There's got to be some processing going on underneath the hood that cleans it up, because normally when you crank the gain like this on any of the amp sims, it starts like losing definition, it starts losing the punch or like the vibe of it. But for whatever reason, it just feels better. Like it is just, it's aggressive, it's forward, and it sounds good. Yeah, it's awesome. It's the amp tone is literally dialed in right out of the gate. Okay. Now, if I were to use this in the context of a mix, I always like to also put on some sort of low-end multi-band compressor. This is like the classic Andy Sneap trick, where on palm mutes and things where it tends to build up a lot of bass, it's just gonna come and squeeze that down. So I just have Waves C6 right after AmpKnob. Okay, and let me just hit play. So you can see during those chugs, it just kind of comes in to calm down that low-end rumble a little bit. Perfect. And I have a little bit of attack on it, so it's like 45 milliseconds or so and a really fast release. So that maintains a little bit of the life for the guitars still. And then I have two tiny little things right here. I have a high pass filter because I feel like the low end is a little bit extended, but that makes sense, right? Because this amp sim has one knob, right? You want to make sure that it still sounds awesome for down-tuned guitars, which is something that I know Jens does a lot of. So of course, it's going to have maybe a little bit lower extension than I typically would want in a song like this, but you can solve that by just putting a high-pass filter. Okay, so I'm putting a high-pass filter at 110. Let's hear what that sounds like. I mean, it's just cleaning up some of the rumble. And I have one tiny cut at 200 hertz because I want my snare to punch through a little bit harder in that region. Guess what? You want to hear it in a mix? It sounds awesome. Literally just turn this knob. Can I just say I might be in love with this idea? Now that's basically all I need to do for a review of this plugin. Now, obviously, the speed at which you can get a pretty awesome sounding guitar tone is a huge advantage for this plugin. But what about some of the downsides? Let's talk about that. Now, if the guitar tone from that Mesa Boogie revC doesn't fit the song, then there's nothing you can do about that. You're gonna have to find a different tone to go with. But it took you 3 seconds to figure that out, right? So you didn't really waste much time. Now, I'm assuming that down the road, there's probably going to be other versions of this AmpKnob with different awesome sounding guitar amps. So my guess is that if that tone doesn't work, guess what? You could probably pull up the next AmpKnob or the next one. That's just my guess. And if anybody from Bogren Digital watches this video, I'm going to send you a list of some other amps that I want you to do this to, because this is cool. And the only other real disadvantage that I can think of is you really don't have a way to tweak anything within this plugin. But that's the whole purpose of it, right? The tone is really well dialed in right out of the gate. I mean, you saw all I had to do was put on a high-pass filter and maybe a little bit of compression in the low bass region just because it's a little bit extended, but I barely did anything. So should you buy this plugin? In my opinion, if you don't have a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier or anything like that in a tonal palette for guitars, yeah, this thing is awesome. Or if you just want a plugin that you don't have to mess with that you know is going to sound pretty awesome for that style of music and takes you 2 seconds to dial it in, that's also a good reason to pick this up. If you like tweaking guitar tones and moving mics and choosing different speaker configurations in a virtual environment, then I would say stay as far away from AmpKnob as possible because that is never ever going to be something you can do with it. Now, I didn't mention it earlier, but this plugin also comes with a standalone version, so you can grab your guitar, run a chord to it, put it right into your interface, load up AmpKnob, and just turn the gain up and start playing your guitar, and you're going to get that awesome Mesa Boogie tone coming right out of your speakers. So if you want an awesome sounding virtual guitar amp and don't want to wake up the neighbors, this is a great option. Now, if you're interested in AmpKnob or any other Bogren Digital product for that matter, I have links to all their stuff in the description. And those guys were cool enough to also give me a 10% coupon code that I can share with you. So if you want 10% off of some Bogren Digital products, all that stuff is in the description. Go and check it out. All right, so let me know your thoughts on this style of plugin. It's a pretty radical departure from what all these amp sim companies are doing right now. Do you think this is a step in the wrong direction, or do you like the direction of a faster workflow? Do you think plugins like this is just gonna make everybody have the exact same guitar tone and there's not gonna be any creativity anymore? I wanna hear all your thoughts in the comments. I want to remind you that in the description, I also have a link to that free download of my Orange 212 Guitar Cabinet Impulse Response Pack. Totally free. So if you want to grab that, link is in the description. As always, I want to thank you so much for your time and attention today, and I hope to see you in another video.